If you want to generate tens of thousands of dollars without spending any money on marketing, this is how you do it. Getting your site to show up #1 in Google used to take years, but now using AI and this one simple hack, you can get any website to rank #1 in Google in days. See, I've done this with my own websites. AI SEO is a trick that very, very few people know about and almost nobody is implementing. In fact, the biggest sites in the world are still paying millions of dollars to SEO experts and agencies to do this type of work for them, and AI can just do it with a simple prompt. I'm going to show you exactly how you can use AI to generate the type of content that Google is looking for. And I'm going to show you exactly how I grew traffic for one of my websites that ranks #1 in Google for multiple keywords. You're not going to want to miss this.
Teaching the world what they need to know. This is your show, the Prompt Show.
So this is Ahrefs. Ahrefs is a site we use to track performance data for any specific site in terms of how it's doing on Google. You know, you can understand what type of keywords it's ranking for, meaning what are people searching to find your site. You can find out what type of competition you're up against, so you understand what kind of content you need to change or create. But I find the most interesting part of this is this graph here, which shows you how much traffic you're generating organically in Google. And that's this orange line over here. So this chart here represents the data for one of my websites called guiltychef.com. So Guilty Chef is basically a recipe site I built, which is a series of recipes from loads of different famous restaurants. And we have the entire recipe just built out over here. It shows the ingredients, directions. And really, I wanted to create this because I got sick and tired of sort of like traditional recipe websites that have so much content and blog articles before you actually get to the recipe. And I wanted to create a straightforward, no nonsense site. And clearly people like it. And we know that they like it because we can see this orange line going upwards here. And that is the organic traffic that we're getting from search engines. And so you can see right now the site is hovering around the 12K monthly visitors. So we know that we're getting about 12,000 monthly visitors on this site and it's growing steadily. And what you'll be surprised to know is that I barely spend any time managing this site. Like I maybe spend a week, 2 weeks in total setting it up and getting it started. But to really have it grow, it was all the compounding result of what I did in those first couple of weeks. And I want to show you a little bit of that today. But the real juice that you're going to want to get for ranking your sites #1 in Google is something you can find inside my 5-day sprint community. So if you go to school.com/5-day sprint, you can jump in and you can see that there are plenty of other people in there just learning, sharing ideas, working on projects themselves and building some incredible things out, also ranking #1 in Google. And we do these community calls and we join together and we help each other. So if you want to go all the way in depth into how to do this from 0 to 100, you want to jump into the 5-day sprint community, and you'll also find classrooms in there. So you have a starter pack of where to get started, which is great for beginners. And then you can gradually grow in your own time. You can consume the content in your own time. And we have these classrooms that break down exactly how I'm building these projects. So like the Guilty Chef classroom, if you open that up, you can see that in here, you'll be able to see everything from the strategy, different monetization tactics, how I'm actually building the entire platform, the prompts I'm using, the whole workflow down to integrating this inside of Webflow, which is a tool I'm using to build the site. You don't need any coding experience. You don't need to understand how this stuff works from a technical layer. It's so self-explanatory, and I walk you through it step by step with full tutorials. So if you really want to just dive in and go all the way, this is a great place to do that. So school.com/5-day sprint is where you want to go to start doing that. And the link will be in the description below as well. Now, back to Ahrefs. So you can see in Ahrefs, as I showed you, the traffic is growing. Now, this means that we're ranking organically in Google and people are finding our site without me having to do any advertising. So I'm not doing any paid advertising. I'm not pushing this on social media. It's just people discovering me. And so if we go to organic keywords over here on the left, you can see that Ahrefs shows us which keywords themselves we rank for. And so I'm going to change the position so we see which from lowest to highest. So the position number 1 keywords. So you can see here we've got multiple keywords over here that are number 1 in Google. So there are tons of these. It goes on with this whole page. And there's a whole other page. You know, again, all number 1. So like, you know, this is just like tons and tons and tons of keywords that we're number 1 for in different countries. So in the US, in the UK, you know, and the US is a big, big market. So to rank number 1 in Google for keywords in the US is virtually impossible. And we're able to do it using these techniques. So you can see, you know, we're ranking number 1 for keywords against some very popular brands like Wagamama's, KFC, Hardee's, Wingstop. And we're coming up before those sites themselves in Google. And so if I give you an example right now, let's go over to Google and I'll type in Wagamama crispy chili mushrooms recipe. Okay, and you can see here, as soon as we search that, Guilty Chef is the first link that comes up in Google. Okay, and our link is coming up before Wagamama's own website, which is mind-blowing. So imagine you're selling a product. It could be a competing product against another big brand. Maybe you're starting a sportswear brand. You could actually rank higher than established sportswear brands like Nike and Adidas, you know, and this is a great way of doing it. So you can see we're ranking above Pinterest. We're then number 1 in the actual recipe search as well, which is brilliant. And we come up above a lot of the popular recipe sites. You can see here as well, we're coming up above TikTok. And so often you would think to yourself, well, there's so many established websites out there. How can mine stand out? Well, this is how it can do that. And AI is brilliant at helping you do this. And so I think this is a trick that a lot of people haven't quite figured out yet. And I was just testing this last year. And very quickly, I started to see results that were mind-blowing for me. And I did it across other sites and saw the same results again. And now we're able to actually use that traffic to get users. So we've got thousands of people signing up to Guilty Chef now to create their own recipes. And then we're able to funnel those users. So we can create a newsletter, we can retarget them, we can upsell them on different products, we can do partnerships with other brands. There are so many ways to monetize a website like this. And again, it's only maybe 2 weeks work tops, but really, I think you can do all of this within a few days. So I'm going to show you the fundamentals of what this does. So if we have a look at a popular site like TripAdvisor, we can see on TripAdvisor, let's say we take their listing here of this restaurant, which looks very juicy. I love a little bit of steak. And we copy this over here. You will see that there is a site where you can check the type of content the site has embedded for it to rank well in Google. And this is what we call schema. Okay, so if I go into this site here, which is validator.schema.org, I can paste that URL in there, this TripAdvisor URL, and I can hit run test. And now what will happen is this tool will go and tell me exactly what type of content they're placing on that site to get it to rank well in Google. And so we'll see just now that they have different types of content they're embedding on there. So let's just give it a moment to analyze it. And we will see that they've got the actual organization itself. So they've got information about TripAdvisor as a company. They've got information about the fact that it's a food establishment, which is probably one of the most key elements here. So it tells you the address of the place, the name of the restaurant over here, the type of entity it is, which is a food establishment, the same as restaurant. And it has many other versions of schema here. And so schema is basically a little bit of code that you can add to your website. Normally, if you go to a Shopify store in your page settings or in your theme settings or in Webflow in your page settings, you'll find there's an area where you can insert some code, some custom code, and you might be familiar with that. And this is all it is. We're going to create some custom code that's going to live on your website, which will help you rank number 1 in Google. Now, previously, you would have to bring in SEO experts and outside people to understand how to actually write this code, right? You have to know how to code. You have to understand how JSON works, which is the format that we write this in. You'd also have to understand how to actually present this content in the context of a search engine and what search engines are looking for. And so you can imagine a site like TripAdvisor has spent probably millions of dollars doing this, and you can do this for free. And so I'm going to show you right now how we actually determine what schema you're going to want to generate for your site. So of course, this will vary depending on what site you have. So you're going to go to schema.org. And when you go to schema.org, you'll see there's a tab here called schemas. Okay, and this has a list of different types of schemas that you can integrate into your website. Okay, so let's assume you were doing a restaurant like TripAdvisor is. You can click on restaurant here, and it has a bunch of properties that you would have to integrate into that code. So, you know, the opening hours, and it tells you the format that the opening hours need to be in. It tells you, you can add maybe what payments types they accept, and you can add that information in. Maybe you can add their contact information. There's so many variables here that you can add to your page. Now, previously, like I said, you would have to go through this, read this page, and understand what elements you want to integrate into your website, and then go and get the code written with the content from your site. And then if you're doing this across hundreds of pages or thousands of pages on your website, you can already do the math and figure out what that's looking like. But with AI, not only can you create this type of schema by itself without even knowing how to code, you can also generate thousands and thousands of pages with pre-built schema in them. And that's exactly what I'm doing in Guilty Chef. And so as you can see, there are all these different pages that I'm ranking for in Google. And these are all different. Look, we've got Wingstop recipe here. We've got Dishoom, Hardee's, Nando's, another Wingstop, Popeyes, Wagamama, another So there's so many different recipes that you can rank for, or different pages, sorry, you can rank for in Google. And you want to be able to create hundreds of these pages, thousands of these pages without even creating anything in code. And so a lot of that process of how I build tons of pages out and scale a website so loads of pages can rank in Google is all inside the 5-day sprint community, which you can pick up there. But the principles themselves I'm going to show you now so you can understand how to start writing schema using AI. Okay. So if we look at this restaurant example, we can see there are tons of variables that we might integrate into our site, and we don't know which ones to integrate, okay? And so what you can do is you can actually speak to an AI tool, and the one I like to use for this type of work is Claude. I think Claude is brilliant at writing code, and you can just speak to Claude in a human language and tell it what we're trying to achieve. So I can say, I'm trying to write schema for my website, which is, I can give it the URL as well if I want to, guiltychef.com, because Claude can go and search the web and find the information for you. And my goal is to rank #1 in Google. Tell me which schemas I should implement into my site without writing any code. And so this is just to get started. You can give, Claude your website and just ask it what type of schema you need to be integrating. Okay. And so we can give it a minute and wait for it to just get that information for us. And it will tell us, instead of us having to go here and find the schema and browse, I'm trying to save you a load of time here. You just go into Claude and you ask it what type of schema you need. It now goes and analyzes your entire website. And it says, okay, well, based on this website, what you want is you want some recipe schema, which is interesting because we have that. You want rich snippets, and rich snippets is what I just showed you on Google, which is this part here, these recipes that are coming up. That's what we call rich snippets. And it's telling me that we want probably voice search, which I don't have, which is interesting, and legibility for recipe carousels, which we do have, item list schema, and some schema around our own brand and business. And like I showed you with TripAdvisor, they have that in this organization type. So if I actually take this recipe website URL here from my website and put that into the schema tester, you will see that in my site, I have a lot of the schema already built in, which AI wrote for me. And that's why we're ranking so well. So you can see that we have the organization. So we know that it's Guilty Chef. It understands what website and brand I am. And all of this information, by the way, helps Google understand how to rank your site. You could think of JSON schema as like the language that Google search engines speak. So often we'll sit there and make our websites look all pretty and work on all this different content. But if you don't have schema integrated into your site, it's just not going to do the type of work that you want Google to do. Google won't understand how to prioritize your website and its content. And so here on Guilty Chef, you can see we have the organization, we've got a video, we've got the recipe, we've got breadcrumbs, which are basically the trail or the hierarchy of how pages are organized on my website. So the home page, the recipe page, the category page, the individual recipe page, all of that is part of the breadcrumb. Then we have the website itself. And then we have FAQs as well. So FAQs are a great thing to add because you could search some of these FAQs in Google and you'll see those question boxes that come up in Google. And this is how Google's getting that data. So you're sort of really planting your seeds all over Google for a specific keyword and a specific type of content. And so you're sort of increasing the surface area of luck of your site being ranked well by Google. Okay, so these are all the different types of schema that I have on Guilty Chef. And so when you go into your site, Claude again, you can look at everything it's telling you here, and it gives you a little bit of an understanding of how to actually, think about the schema you want to add. Now, again, when you've added your URL, the AI can go and just assess the website for you and tell you what you should integrate. And so now what I can do is I can say, write me an example of recipe schema that I can add to my site. Use script tags. I'll show you why in a minute. Use script tags. That's it. And let's see what it does. And now, literally, in seconds, you will see the SEO schema that's going to help you rank number one just be written by this AI in front of you. Look, it's giving you the whole content. It's telling us exactly how we need to structure it. We don't need to hire any engineers. It's just beautiful. And so this is a good outline now of our schema that we're going to want. And so you can see here the script tags are these bits here. So where it ends with a script tag and starts with a script tag. And the reason this is important is because when you're implementing this code onto your website, when the script tags are in there, you can just copy and paste this into that custom code section of your website or page, and the content will just be picked up without giving you any errors. Okay. And so you can see here, we've got an example of a recipe. It's written out and it's chosen all of the different entities, properties that it thinks would be valuable for our page. So again, if I showed you on schema, normally we'd have to go in here and have to pick out all of the variables. I'd have to send them to a developer and get them to write it for me. But over here, it just does it and just gives me all of the different elements that I need. And now all you're going to do is you're going to say, if you want to add anything or remove anything, you can, but you can say, this is great. Now give me a template with placeholders so I can apply this to any recipe on my website. And this is the crucial part. This is the part that's now going to give you a template. So it's now going to edit that code a little bit and it will give you placeholders where instead of actually using this specific code because it's written for one recipe, you're going to go and get the schema and just replace the content with your content on your website. So your specific recipe content or your specific, restaurant listing or event listing or blog content, whatever it is that you're putting out there, it can literally take any type of content and write the correct schema. And you can see here, it's now introduced all of these different placeholders that you can simply copy and paste into your site and just replace with the variables that you want. And if you want to make any edits, you can just tell Claude which edits you want to make, and it can make those edits for you in the code. And so this can work for any type of schema. We also, like I said earlier, have FAQ schema. So if I wanted to now generate an FAQ schema for a specific page, like this recipe, I can ask Claude to generate me an FAQ schema template. So I can say, now generate me an FAQ schema template too. And now, again, taking the same type of format, it will go and generate a template for FAQs. So the question, so you put the question here that someone might ask, the answer you might give them. Again, question 2, question 3, and so on. And now it even gives, in this case, it's even given us instructions on how to best format it. But you can go in here and generate this schema that you can place it to your site and just replace these placeholders with your content. But where I think it gets super, super interesting and where we saw most of this sort of growth that I just showed you with Guilty Chef. So if we go back to our traffic, where are we? Let's see. So over here, you can see this traffic just grew over the past few months. And we're getting this traffic because we're sending a lot of pages and a lot of content to Google. And that's where an automation comes in place. And this is where it gets a little bit more intricate, okay? So you can use a tool like Zapier, Zapier.com, to build a workflow that basically goes from something simple like an Airtable entry. So I will now enter something like whatever, KFC Zinger burger. That's all I will enter, and I'll hit enter. And then using Zapier, it will take that information and then it will send it to Claude using Zapier. And so we're using AI and a special prompt inside of an automated workflow. And it generates the recipe content for me, which is the actual content for the page. It then generates even the image for me, actually. This actual image is AI generated, which is interesting. It then will also generate the SEO schema and the FAQ schema that I just showed you how we did manually. But in this case, it does it automatically. And then it creates all of that and publishes it to my Webflow site. So now you can imagine that if I go in Airtable and just enter 100 recipes without touching anything, I'm getting 100 pages created with 100 sets of SEO schema, FAQ schema, organizational schema, and all of that is being sent to Google and helping us rank #1 to get this type of growth curve. And so a lot of that detail on how we automate this process, again, you can find in the 5-day sprint community. You can jump in there and watch all of these videos right now and just copy exactly what I'm doing. But if you want to do this manually and just get started, this is a great way to do it. You want to generate schema, use Claude AI to help you understand what schema you need for your website and help write it. And I promise you, if you just do this one thing, you will 10x your growth, and organic growth on your site will soar without you even needing to do any marketing or spend any money. It's really incredible, and I hope you give this a try.
Teaching the world what they need to know. This is your show, The Prompt Show.